Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Skol side back again with another Minnesota Vikings video. Another Monday loss. Another Monday waking up, feeling like shit. Terrible loss, heartbreaker last night. And we got a ton of content coming for you guys this week. And, subscribe if you guys want to be there and see all the videos, because we got a ton to talk about. We got a ton of film to break down. We got a ton of plays. They're gonna bring some all 22 out this week, film breakdown. I mean, it's gonna be a lot of content this week because there's a lot to talk about, and just how emotional that game was. However, I want to start this week off. I want to start the game review and game breakdown off with just simple who showed up, who didn't. We do this every week. In a loss, we pick 3 people who showed up and then 5 who didn't, and in a win it's 5 who showed up and 3 who didn't. We're gonna keep it like that. 3 people who showed up, 5 who didn't. And anyways, guys, let's find out why we lost last night and who showed up, who didn't for the Minnesota Vikings against the Seattle Seahawks. All right, anyways, this first person is really it kind of came to the top of my mind right away when I was thinking about who really showed up. And I don't really, when I'm watching the game, I just let my eyes do the work. I don't really listen to anything. I just let my eyes test. And first person who popped off the screen last night was Eric Wilson. Really impressive. Really impressive out of him. Obviously, that huge interception in the fourth quarter against Russell Wilson on the road. That's like a career highlight. That's like probably his best play of his career. He also had a huge sack, tackle for loss, making tackles. He was flying over the field. Eric Wilson played out of his mind last night, and it was just really impressive to see. Because normally in linebacking cores, you have the stud, and then you have the dude who kind of is like always in the shadows. And I always thought it was Barr. It was always Barr. Barr was always in Kendrick's shadows over the past couple years. Well, Barr's not there. And Eric Wilson stepped in and played phenomenal last night. And, I obviously know the scoreboard didn't go our way last night, but if you're just looking raw talent, Eric Wilson has that. Eric Wilson, amazing game last night. He completely showed up. He was all over the field, popping off my screen, play after play after play. Eric Wilson, hell of a game. And that's all I really got to say about him. Undrafted, hell of a linebacker. Him and Kendrick should be the future of this linebacking core. Anyways, Eric Wilson showed up last night. And then for the second out of the 3, groups or people who showed up was the offensive line. The defensive line had a day. 4 sacks in the first half. Just constantly getting interior pressure on Russell Wilson. And honestly, I felt like they did a good job keeping him inside the pocket and making him a pocket passer in that first half. Because in the first half, Russell Wilson really did not get going at all. He was just constantly under pressure. He looked confused out there. That was one thing that kind of stood out to me in the first half, was he looked confused. And that was great to see, because normally when people have been playing this defense all year, it's just they've been comfortable. We'll hit you here. You can't really do anything about it. But to see Russell Wilson confused and really have no idea what was being thrown at him, it was the defensive line. The defensive line, shout out to James Lynch. First career sack. Get him more snaps, please. I don't know why he's not playing. That's what he does, is interior pressure. Push the guard way back in the Russell Wilson's face and make a play. Yannick Ngakoue's athleticism was really on display for me last night. I know he had the sack, but the amount of times he's chasing Russell Wilson and keeping up with him, there's the speed level, was great. Yannick Ngakoue, another shout out. Armin Watts had a great pressure last night too. Just the whole defensive line, just the whole makeup of the team kind of changed last night. And it's kind of got them an identity on the defensive line that they're a bunch of no-name guys, but they're going to make a play. Ifedi made a play. It's just dudes that will make a play throughout a game, and I love it. They gave the young guys their chance on a snap with Armin Watts, DJ Warnham, and James Lynch, and they got a sack. That was great to see with those 3 all on the field at the same time. Anyways, the defensive line played huge, and they showed up big time last night. And now, honestly, I gotta give a shout out to the offense, because obviously they put up 26 points on the road. And this is just a shout out to the position group, running backs and receivers and tight ends. Hell of a game. Just amount of times they were running wide open. Cook and Madison dominating in the run game. Dalvin Cook gets hurt in the second half, and this team still rallied around Madison, and he played out of his mind. He was great, and he The thing about Madison is people always overlook him because of Dalvin Cook, because of he is a backup running back. And casual fans and just casual thinkers of the NFL, backup running back, he's not as good. He's way behind. Or, on the other hand, he's got a stud in front of him, and he's not going to get his opportunity to be a stud. And that's kind of what it is with Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison. Madison is not a big drop-off from Cook. I've been preaching at this all offseason. And it was really great to see him get going and to see him really play well. Obviously, Thielen had the 2 touchdowns. He was key. He kept the energy going on offense. That was finally great to see Irv Smith get involved. I mean, he had 64 yards. That was fantastic. Irv Smith, thank you. Finally get him involved. And we had that incredible catch on the first drive. Cousins threw him a beautiful ball. Hell of a catch. Obviously, other position groups, I would like to see Jefferson get him more involved. However, I get it. They were shadowing him with a safety over the top. Anyways, the position groups, receivers, tight ends, running backs, they really closed it out. They were ones that stood out to me. And it's just kind of classic Minnesota Vikings. We always got weapons. We always have dudes. And that's kind of been our identity. They all showed up. Anyways, the people showed up today. Eric Wilson was great. Obviously, Eric Kendricks, he would get in here too. Just throwing in the linebacker, but I feel like Eric Wilson really stood out. Obviously, I thought the secondary did not play that bad as well. Eric Kendricks and the secondary, they get an honorable mention. However, just 3 groups that really just stood out more than anybody was Eric Wilson, the defensive line, and the weapons that we had on offense last night. Anyways, let's get into who didn't show up. First one who didn't show up is pretty damn obvious if you ask me. It's Drew Samia. Listen, Drew Samia is going to get his own video later on this week sometime because I absolutely need to let some steam out on him. But I have never seen a right guard, a offensive lineman, let alone, it could be a tackle or whatever. Tackles can lose a game, just by getting beat by an edge rusher. But I have never seen an offensive guard lose a game like that. Contribute so much to a loss in my life. That never happens. Normally offensive linemen, it's a continuity thing. Their offensive line got pushed back the whole night. That's normally how it rolls. But to see was one dude struggle so much last night was infuriating to me. And honestly, I think the Drew Samia chapter is over. After last night, he should not play another snap as a starter in the NFL. I'm going to get into him more later on, but Drew Samia did not show up at all. And my last 2 who didn't show up last night, I know this is probably going to start a lot of controversy, and I know probably people aren't going to like it. But first one is Kirk Cousins. Listen, I get the argument. He had 2 great drives, and he was great during those drives, those comeback drives. However, he turned the ball over 2 times, back-to-back possessions in our own territory, and they're both bad turnovers. That can't happen on the road in Seattle. When you have all the momentum, everything's going for you, and you turn the ball over twice in your own territory. Sorry, but if you're a starting quarterback and you want to win a Super Bowl and you want to do things, you just don't do that. These all-time greats just don't do that. They don't throw those bad interceptions back to back. Don't make a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes, but it just seems constantly with him. There's constant turnovers. There's constant almost we got to make up for our quarterback, which is not something that we should be going through as fans or a team or as an organization. I'm not going to put this all on him, though. I do think he played well, and he gave us a chance to win. That's also what a good quarterback does. However, just for those minute and 30 seconds, when the Vikings gave up 21 points, Kirk Cousins was probably the worst I've ever seen him. And it was very bad, very, very, very bad. And anyways, Kirk Cousins didn't show up. He played well in the 4th quarter, but in that 3rd quarter, he gave them a lead, so he did not show up tonight. Frankly, the last one who didn't show up tonight was Mike Zimmer. Listen, I'm not going to get into the 4th down call. I have my opinions on that. I do think that was the right call, and I'm going to make a video on that completely. However, what I have a problem with is the 94 yards. I get he got him the 4th down, and then Dantzler didn't make a play. But it gets to the point where, why is Dantzler one-on-one with DK Metcalf on 4th down? Where is the safety? You know who they're going to go to. They're not going to Lockett. They're not throwing a jump ball to Lockett. They're throwing it to the 6'4", 225-pound guy who has a rookie on him. That's who they're throwing it to. And anyways, just situationally on defense, I didn't think he was awful last night. Obviously, they had a ton of stops in the first half. They seemed like they have a game plan. But then they just have that Chris Carson run where he ran right through everybody, just poor tackling. And you could say, how is that coaching? How is that his fault? I mean, if we just keep making excuses for him, he's going to be here for a while. And I don't know. I just think Zimmer had a rough night last night. Again, I mean, listen, and maybe it was just because we were going against Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, why Cousins and Zimmer look so bad. But it just gets to a point of having that intangible and having just the team know, like, hey, they got it. Our head coach and quarterback, they got it. Because I tell you what, everybody on Seattle, I don't care what the score was last night, during any time of that game, they believed they were going to win. And that's tough. And we were believing, how are we going to lose this? And I think that comes down to our head coach and quarterback. Those two really stood out. Andrew, Samia, and who didn't show up for me last night. Anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like on the video. Tons of content coming this week. Sub, comment down below. I'll see you guys next time. Skol Vikes.